Good morning, everybody. I've put down small sort of an authoring journey which I went through in last 5 to 6 months, and let's see how you guys think it is. Little bit about me. So I've been engaged with technology for almost 20 years now, and over this period I have worked on different languages like Java, ABAP, .NET Core, Objective C, and also touched upon open source technologies like Angular, Ionic, and React a little bit. So I've been touching on different technologies over these years. At core, I'm a programmer, and I still enjoy coding. In terms of cloud, because cloud computing is very essential these days as well, and I think that creates a big impact on the organization who adopts it. So for that, my focus is being on SAP Cloud Platform and Microsoft Azure. Apart from this, I am an EA practitioner, and this is one other thing which I focus on. I feel this gives a real good value to the organization in terms of connecting the organization objectives and where the organization aspirations are to how you can implement that through technology. So this is something which I really have interest in, and I do focus on. I'm a very occasional blogger, so I don't blog a lot, and sometimes I do speak, but not very frequently. And these are some of the in past few years. So what I did was, in this presentation, I'm going to break this journey into three parts. First of all, I'll give a bit of an introduction of the book, which I have written, and then the overall journey, how it started, and what is the process. And in the end, if people are interested in authoring a book, then I'll just give some, you can say, next steps or suggestions, which I think which I have gone through, and I think which might help other people. So first of all, the book is related to developing a multi-platform application using Visual Studio Code. The focus of this book is learning the tool Visual Studio Code by developing a multi-platform app. The app is right now the industry is very much focused on microservices architecture, and this is what we have focused the application on. It's the target audience for this book is developers. I've co-authored this with OS Mehboob Ahmed Khan. He works in Microsoft as a senior customer engineer. We were lucky enough to get a forward for this book by Chris Dice. He's the principal group program manager for VS Code in Microsoft. The overall approach of this book is first we start with an introduction to VS Code. So if you are reading this book and you have no idea what is VS Code, then the book is going to onboard you on that tool. We'll discuss the tooling features, the layouts, and multi-cursor editing, code navigation, all development related features for VS Code, and also the extension framework, because extension framework is the key for VS Code when you are developing multi-platform. Then in the second part of the book, we focus on creating a multi-platform app. Since the app we developed is microservices, we took it to the next level by making each service in a different language. So we made one of the service in Node.js, one in Java, hosted service on .NET Core, an emailing service on Python, and the front end is built using Angular types. So the second part of the book is all focused on developing the application, because we thought, okay, while you are developing the application, that's where you are going to enjoy learning the tool. Otherwise, the topic becomes too dry to just go and see what are the features. Also, since it was a cloud native app, so we have explored and used several Azure services. Like for inter-application messaging, we have used Azure Event Hubs with Kafka protocol. It's behaving like a message broker. Then it's a containerized application. So all the services are containerized, and we use AKS, Azure Kubernetes Services, for container orchestration. Then the data storage is also on cloud using Azure Cosmos DB, MongoDB. And to complete the development cycle, one of the most important part is being discussed right now. And I think which creates a lot of efficiency for companies is DevOps, automating your CI and CD. So we discussed that as well, and version control through Git. So second part of the book completes the whole development cycle from start to end. And in the end, if you are interested and you want to learn more advanced features of VS Code, like creating your own custom extensions or doing remote development using cloud workspaces, then the book discusses that. So overall, this is what the book is about. It's available on Amazon. So if this interests you, please go ahead and check this out. So the overall journey. Uh, the first thing is whenever you are writing a book, the first thing is to engage with the public. So normally what happens is that there is a person whose role is acquisition editor. You can consider him like the friend man for the publisher. He's out for looking for authors, and he's the one who connects with authors. This is the first person to connect with whenever you are writing the book, and he often has several titles. So the publisher has market research. They know what titles are people are interested in right now, and what titles are relevant to the current market trends. And they normally have a list of titles which they think they want to write. So normally the acquisition editor is going to connect to people and discuss those titles with them. It can be other way around as well. So if you're already connected to an acquisition editor, you can say, okay, this is one of the titles I'm interested in writing. Do you think you guys want to finance this? When I say finance this means because they are the ones who are going to publish the book, the book is going to be published, the marketing, the editing, everything is done by them. So they are investing time in terms of resources and money as well. So they will need to see if that is something they want to look after or invest in. For me, what happened was the co-author of this book, Uwais Mahbub Ahmed Khan, he has already written, I think maybe 4 to 5 books with PAC. So PAC, the acquisition editor, was approaching him for a title related to Visual Studio Code. This is what they wanted to write in. Uwais knew that I have been working on open source technologies and things for some time now. So he asked me to join him as an author. So this is how the cycle starts. Now, once that is done, so since this was my first book with PAC, so PAC is going to go through a validation process where they're going to see, they are going to connect with you, and then a typical process, they're going to go through your LinkedIn profile. They're going to ask you, okay, what is your experience? What have you done? And based on that, they're going to judge that should you be writing this title? Once that is done, then the first part of the process, which is finalizing the authors, that is done. Now, once that is done, then you move on to creating an outline. So outline is something which the publisher leaves it completely on you. So this is the responsibility of the authors, because see, the subject matter expert for that particular thing are the authors. So the publisher is going to leave it on you. The two inputs which drive the outline is what is the topic we are going to address and what is the target audience. Based on that, then you define an approach. Now, for us, the topic started with that we wanted to write something. The publisher wants to write something on Visual Studio Code. So me and Wes had several discussions on this. We said, okay, how do you want to approach this book? One way would be, okay, let's go from start to end, divide each chapter into VS Code features and go through them. But then we said, okay, this is something as a developer, I'm as a developer, and this is something which is going to become too dry, because without an example or without experiencing something, just telling the tool can do this, the tool can do this, the tool can do this, it's going to become for us. So even if I see a book like this, I would be very less likely to be interested in that, because this type of information I can go and find it in the documentation as well. So we said how we are going to approach this book is by we are going to make developing the application the centerpiece of this book. And once you do that, then everything started working all together. So and this is where we defined the approach, which I just showed in the first slide. Now, when we said we were going to develop the application, we could have taken a simple application, maybe a layered architecture, a front end, back end, and database. But we said right now, organizations are very interested in microservices architecture, because that creates scalability, that creates diversity in terms of your team. And this is why we picked up microservices architecture. And also making it cloud native, because I think that's the next way to, if you're doing something new right now, the cloud is the thing. Even if your old things, the idea is to move it to cloud. So that's why we made it a cloud native application. And also the second thing we wanted to explore in this book was that Visual Studio Code is more, whoever has used that, more it's more treated as a development editor. So it's for development. But during this process, what we have done, we have tried to expose parts of VS Code, like when you want to create Azure Kubernetes container registry, you can do it within VS Code. If you want to do AKS provisioning, you can do it through VS Code. Then you can want to create your Docker files, you have extensions for that. If you want to create your Azure resources through Azure Resource Manager, you can do it through VS Code. And then when you want to do version control and CI/CD, that's integrated. So as soon as you check in, the code is going to go to your Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps is going to build that, and then it's going to get deployed directly on Kubernetes. So this is the whole part, which exposes a lot of finer details about VS Code, which might be hidden for people. Also, to make it to onboard a wider audience, so not to just make it for advanced user who already know how to do this. We started putting, we said, okay, we are going to do an introduction. So if you have never touched VS Code, the book is for you. So you go and do learn VS Code from basics, from setting up to advanced. And this is how we sort of define the approach of the book. Once you define the approach of the book, then you divide it into parts. Like I said, first part, introduction to VS Code, second, developing application, and the third on advanced topics. This gives you a baseline, and then you start working on the chapters. So for each part, you define chapters.
So I have a question.
Yes.
You said that the publisher said you to write on a particular topic, right? This is also happened with me as well once, because when I wanted to write a book on a particular topic, the publisher said that there is already an existing book on this, or there is someone already, writing on it. So I have to put the different subjects, but the books are different, right? There are multiple books on Java. Only some of them are famous, right? So how did you manage it? Because we can't really always go with what the publisher tells you, right?
Yes, you are right. This is a very good point. So if you go back to this previous slide, the topic started with Visual Studio Code. Now see, the point is that the major investment in this book, in terms of putting resources, apart from you authoring actually, the book content is the major part, but for the publisher, he is for 5 months. You are going to see in the next presentation, there is a complete team engaged with you. So for them, you can drive them to come to your topic, which we did part of this book. So if you see, initially the topic was, their interest was to do VS Code, but we had several discussions with them. We said, okay, see, topic you are going to trying to write in the you just want to focus on VS Code. This is not going to be something which is going to interest people. So that's why we, part of writing the content outline, we massaged their thought process into coming it into a win-win situation for both of us. Because see, even if you are investing time, 5 months, and that book comes out, we want it to be successful. You just don't want to write a book to get a title. You want to write because you want it to be successful. This is your opportunity to express your thoughts to the wider community. So you have that option to massage, but there are conditions when you will say, I want to write on, let's say, for example, this title, and they say, no, this is not in our pipeline for this year. It's just like every organization has a pipeline for projects. This is for the publisher, is a set of projects which they have for the year. So they have certain titles which are set in pipeline. So if that title is somehow in what you can say, touching what your interest is, then you have some flexibility of massaging it to create a win-win situation. But if you give a topic and they say, no, this is not on our plate this year, then it's very difficult to force them to write on that. And what you said is true. Visual Studio Code right now also has a couple of books, but it also it also depends a lot on the part that every person writing a book has a different experience, has a different mindset, has a different way of approaching that, and that creates, like you said, success. One book can be successful, another book cannot be successful, but there's always a space for you to massage their thought process, but it's very difficult to just completely push them in terms of if they are not interested in that title at all.
Okay. And how did you find the right publisher?
So for me, the connection point was Uwais, because he has already done a book for them, and he has already, because he, I think, if I'm not wrong, I think this is his sixth book, something like this. And for him, he keeps on writing books for them. From few books, they have creating learning paths as well, a collection of books as well. So they normally approach him every some time, that this is a title we are interested in writing in. They know what are his expertise, so they touch on those titles. And he was the point where he is the one, and that's why I'm very thankful to him. He is the one who connected me to the publishers. For me, this was the connection with the publisher. Okay, so once you have done the outline, and you have an overall picture of how many parts you want to break your book in, then you have to give a detail of each chapter. So every publisher is going to have some format, and they give you a document. Okay, fill this document. In that document, for each chapter, you have to say what are the chapter headings, what are the subheadings. Now, this is very important. Why? Because you will have a thought process and you know what you're going to write. But the publisher wants to understand, okay, what topics are you going to cover. So let's say, for example, if I say introduction to VS Code, then you're interested to learn, okay, I will tell them, okay, I'm going to discuss the setup, I'm going to discuss the layout, I'm going to discuss multi-cursor editing, I'm going to discuss code navigation, I'm going to discuss code refactoring. These are some of the topics which you need to put for them. These headings are not very strict in terms of, okay, when you're writing the book, when you're writing a chapter, things change, and you always have that flexibility, and they are very flexible in that you can go and change those things. But they will always, if there's something missing from what you put in the outline, they're always going to come back to you say, okay, this was in the outline, is there a reason why we have skipped that? And then you have to go back and update them. So you define each subheading for each chapter, then you put the skills the reader is going to learn in that chapter, and then the number of pages. Now, number of pages might seem a little bit weird. Okay, I'm writing an outline. How do I know how many number of pages? But see, for a publisher, each page combines into the total number of pages, which helps them drive the book cost. So our book is approximately 300 pages. So they want to know, okay, estimated how many number of pages your total book is going to be. Again, this is not very thing which is very strict. We came into situations when we put 20 pages for that chapter, and that chapter went to 35 pages. So they have certain flexibility in moving here and there. But when you took one chapter to 35, then some other chapters you might need to be very strict on keeping at 20, where you promised 20. So overall, this is how when you write a book and when you are putting the initial outline, this is how it maps. Then once you have put down all the outline, then you put a schedule. Okay, it's just like a project. So you say, okay, this chapter will be released on this date. So for me and Omes, there are 10 chapters. So both of us divided 5 chapters each. So we were releasing 2 chapters every month. So based on that, we told them that these are the dates we are going to be releasing a chapter, and that sort of becomes your project plan. Once all this is done and you have the document filled, then you're going to they send the acquisition editor, takes it to the editorial board for pact, and they're going to see the outline. If they have some questions, they're going to come back. Sometimes also they say, okay, VS Code, we want this topic also to be covered, and then you can add that, or you can discuss with them. Okay, if this is something which is not a roadmap, or this is something, yes, I think this is a good idea, we can include that as well. Based on that, then you finalize your outline. The last part is the financial contracts. They are pretty much predefined for them. So normally, every publisher, what they do, they give you an upfront payment based on a schedule, which is from your royalty. So it's like a future royalty payment, and then you have a royalty percentage on the overall book, which whenever a book is sold, then you're going to get that. And based on that, you sign a contract with them. It contains an NDA and things like that, that you're not going to leak the book content somewhere else. Once all this is done, then you come to the real part where you are writing. That was sort of a preparation. The publisher assigns a team for you. There is a project manager, there are reviewers, there are technical reviewers which are engaged later, and there are editors who are working with you. So once you start authoring your chapter, there are some guidelines which the publisher is going to give you based on formatting. They are more of like, for example, with an image, this is how you define a title for image. This is how you refer. The code snippet has to be this format. So every publisher will have their own guidelines, and this is what you follow while writing the book. Then for us, while we were writing the chapter, we were also developing the application. So this is not an application which was pre-built. We were developing it while we were writing each chapter. So this is what we are also doing while we are authoring the chapter. And then once your chapter is completed, you submit it back to them. There is an initial review. They are going to mainly see the flow of the chapter, if it makes sense, and the guidelines are met or not. And then there's a two-flow communication in terms of if there's something missing or not. And they also at this point they also compare it with the outline, that if you haven't missed anything or not. Then
So I have
after,
a question
yes, go
on
ahead.
timing part. You mentioned about you spent a couple of weeks on one chapter or so, right? So how did you manage time? Did it
Yes,
take so much time to write the book, or was it
yes.
difficulties?
Yeah. This is, you picked it up very right. This is the biggest challenge for me in writing this book was time. Because see, the thing is, book is something additional to your daily routine. So work is there, family is there, and then you have to write book. But I think I'm very thankful to my family, because they are the ones who sacrifice on their time. So because when I come back from work, I'm sitting at home. I have to write that chapter. I have to develop that application, and even sometimes on weekends you are doing that, because that schedule which you develop with the editor is flexible in terms of few days here and there, even a week. They are okay with that. But if you promise a date, you can't just go on overboard. It's just like a project when you are doing. So
Yeah.
there's a percentage of delay which you can do, but this is, I think this was the biggest challenge for me,
Mhm.
was in terms of managing time. But I think what I would suggest in this is, it's not something very difficult, because see, once you say, let's say for example, for us, I was lucky that there were two authors, and the book took 6 months, so I had 1 month for each chapter. Now let's say for example, if you're writing a book alone and there are 10 chapters, then maybe you might be required to push each chapter in 20 days. So what the
Oh,
best way to approach this is, that every day you say, okay, every day I'm going to take maybe half an hour or an hour doing that chapter. And then when that spreads over into 20 days, that will become really easy. Instead of then we push it to the end, and then quickly try to submit the chapter. Because on the other side, what happens is that uh, uh, if you work on daily basis, then the quality what comes out is really good. Delaying it, what will happen then? The author tries to come up and tries to run after the timeline, and is going to damage the quality, which is going to ultimately is not a good thing for the reader, because ultimately you want the reader is paying money for that, so you want them to get really good value out of that. So I think dividing your time on daily basis would be the key in terms of managing time.
okay.
So once let's say for example, out of the 10 chapter, 3 or 4 chapters are completed, then the publisher is going to engage a technical reviewer, because the initial reviews were more of on outline, the outline comparison, flow of the chapter, and in terms of understanding that you have followed the guidelines and things like that. Now technical reviewer is supposed to take the book, and he's a technical guy who's going to go through the book. If you're developing an application, he will also try to develop that application, and then he's going to see, okay, I like the chapter, I think these are some things which can be more clarified, or if you can add this. So he's going to put his thought as well in terms of technical review. And this guy, once he's engaged with you, let's say uh, halfway down the line, he engages with you, and then he stays till the end when all the chapters are complete. So this is a cycle which keeps on going on, and in the end, once a complete book is ready and all the reviews are done, then the publisher is going to compile it into one big file, one big complete book, and then you work with the publisher on things like preface, author bios. For us, like I said, we were lucky to get a forward from Chris Dice, so this is something which also went a part of the book, and then you create the front matter, the title of the book with the publisher. So these are things which you have input in, and this is where the book is compiled into a final copy. So this was overall, and then normally Amazon is the place where these books are sold, and this is where they publish these books. This was the overall, you can say, the journey in terms of writing the book, and the experience which I went through. Uh, if any one of you is interested in writing, these are few of the things which are on which I can say are on top of my head, which can get you started. So the first thing would be to choose a topic which interests you, which you think you have enough knowledge in, and which you think you can very well share with the audience. Everybody has a different style. Every book is different. It's your way of explaining things, and anything clicks. So take a topic which interests you, because then you enjoy that journey of writing that book. Then connect with the publisher and discuss your ideas. I'm very hopeful that you're going to find some common ground where both of you would like to engage in that venture. Uh, I think this topic already, Midun highlighted this, and the biggest challenge for me was in terms of managing time, and I think, like I said, the the suggestions I gave on how you can divide it over a period, that I think that really helped me in coping up with that. And in the end, enjoy the journey. It's fun. It's fun writing it. It's time consuming. It takes a bit from you, but it's joyous in terms of once you get the final result. It's really lovely, and also the journey, it teaches you a lot while you are doing this. And I think that's from my side. These are some of my, let's say, the LinkedIn profile and the Twitter account. So anybody who would like to connect and discuss, then I'm happy to have a chat with you guys. And thank you very much, Midun, for this opportunity.